Hey guys, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here with a quick first impressions video for you on a knife from PMP Knives. I've had a couple of other models from them, and generally speaking, I've been pretty happy with their quality and their build. And I will say this, I do like their style. I think the first thing they came out with was like the PMP Beast, and it was just this massive thing and completely impractical. They've done a Beast 2 by this point and a couple of other crazy big knives, and I really like the PMP style in general. And this knife does fit into that category. Now, the packaging on this is something I really want to ask you guys about and have a little bit of a discussion about, because this packaging is really impressive. Like, it's what I would expect with a custom knife or a really high-end mid-tech, and yet you pop this thing open and what you have in here is a small EDC style fixed blade or neck knife style fixed blade in D2 steel. These things cost like 90 bucks. So it feels like the packaging is above and beyond for a knife at this price point. Comes with this steel card, all right, kind of describing or with the name and logo of the knife as well as the designer, and it tells us here that it's in D2 steel. Finally, we've also got this chain so that you can clip this on and make this into a neck knife. Let me move this stuff out of the way. And I do want to say this. So this packaging is really impressive, and it's kind of a welcome change, and I think it helps PMP stand out a little bit for sure, but I almost wonder if you could forego all of this, and who knows how much money that would save you, perhaps allowing you to come in at a slightly lower price point for this. Now, the $90 price point is not crazy, but it's a little up there, right? So anyway, wanted to throw that out there right at the start, and I thought I would invite you guys to comment down below. Do you like the packaging? Is it a really nice touch? And perhaps, maybe this whole package is only $2. So even if they got rid of the whole thing, they still wouldn't be able to come in at a much better price point. Maybe that's the case as well. So my thought is forgo the fancy packaging, throw this thing in a cardboard box and charge me $5 or $10 less for it. I'd be happy. If you wouldn't, then let me know down in the comments. Next thing I want to touch on is the other thing that stands out about this knife. Well, one, I think it's a really attractive knife. I've got to say, there's certainly, to me anyway, a visual appeal to this. All right. But in hand, there's an ergonomic appeal as well. And so first impressions, the thing that stands out to me is when you grip this knife, you go, hey, this feels reasonably good. Now, I haven't done a lot of cutting with this. Remember, this is just a first impression, but I can see this being certainly better than a lot of its competitors. Remember, this is sort of a minimalist fixed blade. They even give you the option of a neck knife, which I don't think is realistic. This is 4 ounces, by the way, with the sheath. So I'm not going to hang 4 ounces around my neck. That's just too much. But it's still, they're aiming to be very light and very minimalistic. And normally that doesn't come with fairly thick steel, but this is actually, no, I'm wrong about that. Yeah, 7/16 thick. All right, so 8/16 would be 1/4 of an inch, right? So this is almost 1/4 of an inch blade stock. I've never seen that on a knife this small, and yet it's still fairly thin behind the edge and has this very flat, high grind. I mean, very high, flat grind. And so the cutting performance on this, now, again, this is a first impression. I've only done a couple of little cuts with it, but I think it's going to be pretty darn decent for what it is. Now, the other thing to consider here is this is a fairly short handle. So I still wouldn't pick this as, I'm going to go and survive overnight and this is all I'm going to bring. No, right? That's not the tool that I want. However, I will say if I wanted something that I could be the smallest knife that I would feel comfortable batoning with, this would be an option for that. This is a massive hunk of steel, very confidence inspiring in that regard. The other thing though, because it's so thick and because of this rounded handle, it actually makes it feel pretty darn good. The jimping is perhaps a little sharp, but not all that bad. All right, so my first impression is nice looking knife, sensible approach to a really thick blade, and retention in the sheath is pretty good as well. So now that I've put it back in the sheath, let me give you a size and weight on this thing, and then draw some final conclusions. So 7 7/16 overall with the sheath. So that's easily short enough to fit right into a pair of jeans or a pair of, the typical 511s or something that I wear most days. 6 15/16 When it's out of the sheath, 3 1/8 inches on the blade, 3 3/4 inch handle. Now, it's, do you stop measuring here or where exactly? So that's landing somewhere in this area. I kind of split the difference on that. 3 1/4 inch grip area. So it is a pretty short handle. And that's one of the things that you can kind of get away with a knife like this. And it feels, again, it feels okay. If you had much larger hands than mine, I could see ergonomics being a bit of an issue. Again, I haven't had a lot of time spent with this. Out of the sheath, we already talked about it, 4 ounces in the sheath. It's 3.4 ounces out of the sheath. That doesn't, you're not going to spend a lot of time with that. It's fairly blade heavy because, well, just look at the design. It's all blade. Okay, that's kind of part of the deal with this style of knife in general. All right, and the other thing that makes me go, okay, it comes with that chain to be set up as a neck knife, and 4 ounces around my neck doesn't make any kind of sense to me. What are my overall impressions, my overall thoughts on this knife? I think this is a really, really good backup, secondary, concealed type of knife. I think, you could throw this in a pocket. You could throw it in a survival kit. It would work really well in that application if you're trying to make a really, really small survival kit. The D2 steel, I wish it were stainless because, I could see throwing this in a survival kit in the trunk of your car and then you go to pull it out and it's rusted. So if you're going to do that application, oil this thing up before you drop it in a trunk and forget about it for 5 years, or drop it in a toolbox or something like that. Again, I've had pretty good experience with D2 steel. So I like this for what it's for. It's a nice, I could see taking this on a bike ride or on a hike or on any time where, I don't want to be encumbered by something bigger and heavier. I could definitely see this being a really good option because, while it's fairly minimal and fairly slim and definitely doesn't take up a lot of space, it can still get quite a bit done, right? Not as much as my Line Steel M4, right? That's not what I'm saying, but it's still pretty handy. I also think Justin still has some of these in stock, and you can save yourself 10% off using my discount code SHARPSTUFF. So go ahead and do that. Even if you're in Canada, the nice thing is this is a fixed blade, so no potential hiccups with CBSA. And that's a whole different video, and we've covered that lots of times. So thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Definitely use that link and pick one of these up if it's interesting to you. We'll talk to you soon.